the demonic amusement park where nightmares come to life. It was supposed to be a fun school trip to the amusement park, a day filled with laughter, screams, and cotton candy. But as soon as the bus pulled into the parking lot of the demonic amusement park, something felt off. The air was thick with an eerie silence, and the sky was a dark shade of gray. Despite it being midday, the students couldn't help but feel a sense of unease as they disembarked from the bus and made their way towards the entrance. The amusement park looked like something out of a horror movie. The once bright and colorful rides were now rusted and decaying, and the cheerful music that usually played in the background was replaced with haunting screams and cackles. The entire place seemed to be shrouded in a thick fog, making it difficult to see more than a few feet in front of them. As the group made their way through the park, they couldn't help but notice the absence of other visitors. It was as if they were the only ones there. The teachers tried to reassure the students that it was probably just an off day, but deep down, they all knew that something wasn't right. They decided to split up and explore the park in smaller groups, but as soon as they did, strange things began to happen. One group reported that their ride had malfunctioned, and they were stuck hanging upside down for what felt like hours. Another group claimed that they had been chased by a sinister clown with razor-sharp teeth, who had suddenly appeared out of nowhere. But the worst was yet to come. As the students regrouped and made their way towards the exit, they found that the entrance had disappeared, leaving them trapped inside the park. Panic set in as they realized that they were stuck in this demonic playground with no way out. As they wandered around, trying to find a way out, they began to notice more and more sinister things happening around them. The carousel horses started to come to life, their eyes glowing red as they galloped around in circles. The bumper cars began to ram into each other with a force that could only be described as demonic, and the Ferris wheel spun around so fast that it seemed like it was about to launch them all into space. But the scariest thing of all was the laughter that echoed through the park. It was a sinister, maniacal laughter that seemed to be coming from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. The students couldn't tell if it was the wind or something far more sinister. As they continued to search for a way out, they began to notice that the park itself seemed to be changing. The once familiar rides and attractions were now morphing into something far more sinister. The roller coaster tracks twisted and turned in impossible ways. The haunted house doors opened on their own, and the teacup ride spun so fast that it was almost impossible to hold on. And then they saw it, the demonic clown from earlier, standing in the center of the park, holding a balloon in one hand and a rusty knife in the other. He beckoned them closer, his toothy grin sending chills down their spines. The students tried to run, but they found that their feet were rooted to the ground. It was then that they heard a voice, deep and menacing. "Welcome to my amusement park," it said. "You are all here to entertain me." The students knew then that they were not dealing with an ordinary amusement park, but something far more sinister. They were trapped in a place where the rules of reality no longer applied, and where evil seemed to reign supreme. As the day turned into night, the students began to lose hope. They were tired, hungry, and scared out of their minds. Suddenly, a faint glimmer of hope emerged as they stumbled upon a dilapidated arcade with a sign that read, "Find the key to escape." The students quickly split up to search for the key, hoping that it would unlock the exit and free them from the demonic park. As they searched through the arcade, they were confronted by more horrors. The arcade games came to life, shooting out deadly lasers and electrocuting those who dared to play them. The students quickly realized that the key was not going to be easy to find, and that they needed to work together to survive. After what felt like hours of searching, one of the students finally found the key, tucked away in a forgotten corner of the arcade. They quickly regrouped and made their way towards the exit, hoping that they could make it out before the demonic forces of the park caught up to them. But as they reached the exit, they found that it was guarded by a giant demonic figure, towering over them with glowing red eyes and razor-sharp teeth. The students knew that they had to face this demon if they wanted to escape the park, and so they banded together, using all the strength they had left to fight it off. With a final burst of energy, they managed to defeat the demon and unlock the exit. Stumbling out of the park and into the fresh air, they were exhausted and traumatized, but they were alive. As they looked back at the park, they saw that it had disappeared, leaving nothing behind but an empty lot. They knew that they had survived something truly terrifying, and that they would never forget the horrors they had faced in the demonic amusement park. Years later, as the students graduated and moved on with their lives, they would often talk about the day they spent in the demonic amusement park. They would share their stories of terror, trying to make sense of what had happened to them. But they would also remember the bravery and courage they had shown in the face of evil, and how they had worked together to survive. And though they never knew what had truly happened that day, they would always carry a sense of unease with them, knowing that the demonic amusement park was out there, waiting for its next victims. Years passed, and the students did their best to move on from the horrors they had experienced in the demonic amusement park. They went their separate ways, attending different colleges, starting families, and pursuing careers. But no matter how hard they tried to forget, the memories lingered like a dark shadow in the depths of their minds. Then, one by one, strange and inexplicable events began to occur in their lives. They would wake up in the dead of night, drenched in sweat, plagued by nightmares of the demonic clown and the twisted rides. Objects in their homes would move on their own. Doors would slam shut with a force that defied explanation, and whispers filled the air, carrying the same maniacal laughter they had heard in the park. As the students discovered the eerie coincidences that connected them, they realized that their nightmare was far from over. The demonic amusement park had reached beyond its boundaries, seeping into their everyday lives, a haunting reminder of the terror they had endured. They reunited, seeking solace in one another's company, hoping to find answers and put an end to the curse that had befallen them. Together, they delved into research, seeking any information they could find about the park's dark history and the malevolent forces that had taken hold of it. Their investigation led them down a rabbit hole of sinister tales and forgotten secrets. They discovered that the amusement park had been built upon a cursed burial ground, where dark rituals had once been performed. It was said that the park's founder had made a pact with a demonic entity, sacrificing innocent souls in exchange for success and prosperity. Armed with this knowledge, the students realized that they had to confront the source of their nightmares. They braced themselves, returning to the empty lot where the demonic amusement park once stood, carrying with them ancient talismans and protective charms they had gathered in their research. But as they approached the site, they were met with a horrifying sight. The park had returned, restored to its former glory, but now even more sinister than before. The rides twisted and contorted, taking on grotesque forms that defied logic. The air crackled with malevolent energy, and the demonic laughter grew louder and more deranged. The students knew they had to press on, regardless of the escalating horrors around them. They moved cautiously through the park, encountering grotesque creatures that emerged from the shadows. Each step forward was met with resistance, as if the park itself was trying to keep them trapped within its clutches. Finally, They reached the heart of the park, where the demonic clown awaited them. His laughter echoed through the desolate grounds, his eyes glinting with madness. He taunted them, promising to torment them for eternity, and they could feel their sanity hanging by a thread. Summoning every ounce of courage they had left, the students unleashed their talismans, their protective charms, and the sheer force of their collective will. A battle of supernatural proportions ensued as the students fought against the demonic forces that plagued them. But it was a grueling fight, and one by one, they fell, consumed by the darkness. Their screams filled the air, mingling with the triumphant laughter of the demonic clown. Their sacrifice seemed in vain, as the park grew stronger, feeding off their fear and despair. And yet, in their final moments, a glimmer of hope emerged. The last remaining student, battered and broken, managed to deliver a final blow to the demonic clown, banishing him back to the depths from which he came. With his defeat, the park crumbled, collapsing into itself until only the empty lot remained.